Grayscale has defeated the SEC in court with a decision that says, quote, "The denial of Grayscale's proposal was arbitrary and capricious because the commission failed to explain why its different treatment of similar products." I'm Zenith with Hexco Space Force. Welcome back, and today we are going to be breaking down the Grayscale SEC decision that came out on August 29th. So, in case you've been living under a rock, in the crypto world anyways, Grayscale has been filing for a spot ETF for a while now, and back in June of 2022, the SEC denied their application. However, it goes contrary because the SEC previously approved two futures ETFs. Grayscale's spot ETF actually used a lot of the same basics as the futures ETFs that were approved, so it was a bit of a shock to see that the SEC denied them on claims that they felt they had largely addressed. So to get into it, the timeline is 2022, SEC denies them. Grayscale files petition, we go through some normal court order stuff and proceedings, and then finally, on August 29th, 2023, literally over a year and 2 months later, the DC Federal Court of Appeals ruled in favor of Grayscale. Here is the decision. We're going to be going through it. I'm going to highlight some of the key important factors and hopefully make this a little easier to read because I'll be honest, it's a very dry document. To start off, let's see what the court said about the fundamental principle of the case. Quote, "It is a fundamental principle of administrative law that agencies must treat like cases alike. The Securities and Exchange Commission recently approved the trading of two Bitcoin's futures funds on national exchanges, but denied the approval of Grayscale's Bitcoin fund. Petitioning for review of the Commission's denial order, Grayscale maintains its proposed Bitcoin exchange-traded product, or ETP, as we'll later see, is materially similar to the Bitcoin futures exchange-traded products and should have been approved to trade on the New York Stock Exchange. We agree the denial of Grayscale's proposal was arbitrary and capricious because the Commission failed to explain why it's a different treatment of similar products. We therefore grant Grayscale's petition and vacate the order." The basis of this case basically comes down to the SEC previously approved two futures ETFs. Those ETFs are the Valkyrie and Teucrium ETFs. So, just for some quick education, what a futures ETF is it is an ETF that is futures contracts. Futures contracts are a type of derivative of an underlying asset that allow you to have more exposure to the asset because you are actually trading a contract that is an agreement to buy or sell the underlying asset at a given price. Granted, you can actually exercise the contract and buy the underlying asset, or you can effectively close out the contracts and just get a cash position out of them. However, the underlying issue for this is that the futures ETFs trade Bitcoin versus the Grayscale's ETF, which actually holds Bitcoin instead of the contracts for Bitcoin. Additionally, the other major part of the ETFs is that the SEC requires you to have certain regulations for preventing fraud and manipulation. There was a surveillance agreement with the other two ETFs for the futures, and then the Grayscale Spot ETF actually used an identical system for surveillance of the asset that would help prevent against fraud and manipulation. Basically, the court decided that if we can prove that Grayscale shows the exact same performance and also the exact same prevention methods as the other two previously approved ETFs, then it makes no sense that this one would be denied and the others would be approved, therefore saying that the SEC is just applying its rules arbitrarily. They're not exactly appealing the decision by the SEC, but they're more of appealing that saying, hey, you guys didn't follow your own rules, therefore you need to actually give us a proper explanation of why you're either approving or denying our products. So one of the major ways that the SEC determines what they are going to approve is through a two-pronged test called the significant market or the market of significant size test. So prong number one of the significant market test is that there must be a reasonable likelihood that a person attempting to manipulate the exchange-traded product would have to trade on the related market to successfully manipulate the ETP. In other words, the Commission would consider whether a person attempting to manipulate the ETP could simply bypass the related market and thus circumvent the surveillance. The second prong of the test is that it must be unlikely that trading in the exchange-traded product would be the predominant influence on prices in the surveilled market. If trading in the ETP dominated prices in the surveilled market, that market might be unable to pick up price discrepancies between the ETP and its underlying assets. So basically what this test is trying to do is it's trying to see if there are ways to circumvent the actual the methods for preventing fraud and manipulation. The idea is that if there is a way to go outside of the intended way to buy or sell things to figure out the prices and fix them, then that's an issue. However, this goes back to the issue that was previously mentioned, which is that this product uses the exact same tools that the others future ETFs used. So it wouldn't make sense for this one to get denied on that base, which it was by the SEC. So at the end of the day, if we come all the way down to the bottom of the document, we find that the court rules in favor with Grayscale. Here is their closing item. To avoid arbitrariness and caprice, administrative adjudication must be consistent and predictable, following the basic principle that similar cases should be treated similarly. The New York Stock Exchange presented substantial evidence that Grayscale is similar across the relevant regulatory factors to Bitcoin futures ETPs. The Commission failed to adequately explain why it approved the listing of the two Bitcoin futures ETPs, but not the Grayscale proposed Bitcoin ETP. In the absence of a coherent explanation, this unlike regulatory treatment of like products is unlawful. We therefore grant Grayscale's petition for review and vacate the Commission's order. So, going back to what does this mean for Grayscale? Does this mean that their ETF is now approved? Absolutely not. What it does is it kicks it back to the SEC and says, hey, you need to have a better explanation of what's going on here, or if you don't, you're probably going to have to approve it. So with that said, we're coming into ETF season, and there's going to be a plethora of other ETFs that are going to go through their decision window anytime between October with the BlackRock ETF, and then all the rest of them that typically end in about March of 2024 for the latest that the SEC has to get back to them. So with that said, we are currently still in the bit of a bear market. We're looking to go towards the bit of an accumulation phase. But we can see that news like this is absolutely going to affect Bitcoin prices. So for example, August 29th here, we opened the day at about 26,000 and we closed the day at about 27,600. Unfortunately, over the next few days, we have dropped right off that, but it really was correlation to that. And then also it could be some S&P correlation, because you can see on the S&P for August 29th, there was also significant movement that day. With all that being said, this is absolutely good news when it comes to the ETFs getting approval. What that's going to do is it's going to push the Bitcoin-related products to the more conventional market and allow conventional stock traders and brokers and retail investors to get some exposure to Bitcoin through Grayscale BTC. Notably, Grayscale BTC, or GBTC, is currently on a discount, so to speak, because it has not been approved by the SEC. However, once we actually see the SEC potentially approve this, assuming they do so, that discount is going to drop invariably. Previously, the discount was above 45%, and that I believe now it's sitting somewhere between 20 and 30%. So the discount is decreasing. However, it could potentially go away once the product is approved. Grayscale currently holds about 3.4% of the entire Bitcoin supply, and it's actually evaluated in current prices at about tens of billions of dollars. So this is not a small amount of money we're talking about here, and this could be one of the first forays from actually going from a futures ETF available to the public to a spot ETF available to the public. Well, that is going to wrap it up for this video. I'm Zenith with Hexaco Space Force. Follow back for more news, breakdowns, and price updates, and we even might throw in some memes here and there. Till the next time, I will catch you guys later. Thank you.